Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Two Pence Worth, a series where we hear all about the stories and the successes, sometimes the challenges, but most importantly, the advice and tips of female founders in climate tech. The reason I decided to do this series was because I read a stat last year that said that in 2022, for every £1 of VC money that was invested, less than 2 pence went to companies that had female founding teams. So like 2% of money was going to female founded businesses. So I wanted to do my part to champion the incredible work out there that's being done by women in climate. I wanted to be able to shine a light on the innovations and sort of the new products that they were bringing to the market, their journeys. I wanted to address the challenges where there were some, but I also really wanted that to get them to share their resources and their advice to help other people that were going on that same journey. So if you've missed any of our previous episodes, we've had some incredible, inspiring, uplifting stories from some excellent women in climate. So please go and check those out. You can either watch them in video form on my LinkedIn profile or on our YouTube channel, or you can listen to them on the go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And today we are joined by Francesca Kennedy Wallbank, co-founder of CarbonBright. Francesca founded CarbonBright as part of the Carbon 13 venture builder, with the goal of helping retailers, suppliers, and brands in the consumer goods space to understand and reduce the impact of their products. Francesca has spent the last 7 years working for Uniliver, and in that time, she's developed a real expertise in that consumer goods market and worked across every part of the business, from logistics to warehousing, new product innovation, brand marketing, operations, and I'm sure she'll share that really interesting journey with us. She also has a really clear entrepreneurial drive, and she has founded not one, not two, but 3 sustainability-related startups. Thank you so much for joining us, Francesca. Really pleased to have you here.
Thank you. Lovely to be here, Cherry. Thanks for inviting me on.
My pleasure. And I'm really interested to hear more about CarbonBright and for you to share with everybody. I mean, I gave a little bit of an intro there on what the platform does and who it helps, but are you happy to go into a bit more detail for us about what the platform is, who it's for, what it does, and everything that you're working on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as Cherry mentioned, I'm the co-CEO of CarbonBright and also a co-founder. And what we're really doing, just as our beachhead kind of market, is focusing on the consumer packaged goods industry. So that's everything that's sold in a supermarket, from food, drink, to home care, to beauty and personal care. And so who we're working with are brands, suppliers, and retailers in that space who really want to understand the impact that their products have on the environment. And in fact, about 90% of their total emissions, so that includes their operations, the buildings, the shops that they own, but 90% actually sit in their supply chains, in their products. And a lot of these companies, I'm sure you've seen, have set net zero targets by 2030, by 2050, but actually are really struggling to put that into practice and set plans. So what we're doing is helping companies understand first, measuring what is the impact. And when I say impact, I'm talking carbon, biodiversity, water. In fact, there's 16 different metrics that we go into. What is the impact of that product for them, and how can they redesign products so that they can reduce their impact? And this is something that they want to do because they've set these targets through SBTi, but also they're going to have to do anyway because there's regulation coming through from about Q4 this year to next year. It's still in transition phase right now, but it's getting there, where they're going to have to do full full understanding of their products. And this is usually done through a lifecycle assessment. So this is a scientific way of measuring all of the emissions within a product. So it goes through each of the different life stages. So really quick top level is raw materials. It goes into the manufacturing. So the manufacturing emissions, the transportation to the store. It'll be also the transportation all the way to distribution, to consumers' home, to the waste plant. It takes into consideration you using the product. So for example, if you have a can of Coke, you put it into the fridge and the emissions of that to keep it cold. And also end of life. So if you then take that can of Coke and then recycle it, or it goes into incineration or landfill, or maybe you get to reuse it because it's now a brand new circular model. It takes into the emissions of every part, and then that's what you basically add up in a nice little sum, and that gives you the emissions of that product. So then imagine it's then on a product. So then you as the end consumer going into that store can then decide on which product that you pick up, because you can actually see now which one's actually better for the environment. And I know that a lot of people would be shocked when they get to actually see this kind of information, because it's a lot different to what you think. Gone are the days, oh, let's just chuck a load of cardboard on that product to make it look like we're being more sustainable. It really looks at everything. So where are you getting this cardboard from, for example? Like calories on food, we're doing that, but with the impact factors.
Amazing. And that is something that is not only desired by consumers, but like you said, is going to be mandated and required by the onus is going to be on those suppliers, retailers, brands to be doing that. So that's amazing, incredible. And a huge data challenge, I would imagine, from your perspective.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing. So the way that life cycle assessments are currently done is via usually a consultant. So a consultant would spend about, I've heard one product taking 9 months to do one product. And it costs a lot of money. That's actually what got me into this, is because I wanted to do it for my first business called H2O Squared, which was a bottle business. And I really wanted to understand the impact of that. So I was like, okay, there's this thing called life cycle assessments. I can go pay a company to help me do this. And they charged £25,000. This was the Carbon Trust. I'm going to say it, I don't care. But the Carbon Trust, and they use consultants to do this assessment. If it's going to cost £25,000 per product, this is never going to happen, because it's way too expensive. It's not scalable. And so what we've done at CarbonBright is to turn it on its head and said, okay, we're not going to use consultants. We're going to use really powerful technology, which is where my co-founders come in. They've got backgrounds in AI and machine learning. So we are crawling the internet. We're using 100,000 different data sources using primary data. So we can basically create a digital twin of every supply chain of a product, and making this happen instantly. So rather than you having to pay £25,000 per SKU, and by the way, for a company like Uniliver, where I work with 77,000 different products, this is a $1 billion problem for them. If they wanted to do this in the current, we call it the dinosaur way, it would cost them over $1 billion. We've then said, okay, well, let's help you with that. Let's make this scalable. Let's do this instantly for you using technology, and get to the point where you can start either putting this in front of consumers, but more importantly, starting to decarbonize. So redesigning, looking at where are the hotspots, where are the big places where there's a lot of emissions, and let's focus in on those areas right now and give you recommendations on how you can start reducing your impact right now. That's what we're doing. But yes, data problem is a real thing, and you need to find the right data sources. You need to partner with the right people. That's the way to really do it. And that's what we're focused on, is accuracy of data.
Amazing. I love that. And obviously, so you've, as I mentioned before, founded CarbonBright through the Carbon 13 venture builder, and we've interviewed another couple of people from other cohorts as well throughout this series. So if anybody's watched previous episodes, you'll know a little bit about what the venture builder is. But for those who haven't and those who don't know, talk us through, just in a real kind of little nutshell there, what the Carbon 13 program is, but perhaps sort of what your experience of going in and kind of meeting your co-founders was.
Absolutely. So for anyone that doesn't know what a venture builder is, because I did not know before, I didn't even know these things existed. Basically, it's a way of helping you accelerate your business. So there's different types. You can go in with a ready formed business, but Carbon 13 was actually founded from professors out of Cambridge University. And they did a whole thesis and said, in order to solve the climate crisis, we need to get entrepreneurs to do this, because they're more agile, they can do it really quickly. And then they started a venture builder accelerator program, which basically is split into 3 different stages. So the first stage is, one, you're a single founder. So, by the way, other venture builder programs, you could come in with a founder already, but in Carbon 13, usually you go in as a singular founder with an idea or without an idea. I already had this kind of idea brewing in the back of my head. I didn't know exactly how I'd plan out, but went in, and first stage, there's 100 people. You have to, find a co-founder. Otherwise, you don't move to the next stage. So managed to found a great co-founder in David. You then move into the second phase, and that's when you really start putting together a business. So that's where you start saying, okay, let's build a business case. What do we stand for as a company? Let's speak to customers. What do they really want? Where are the pain points? Business canvas model. Was it canvas model? Business canvas model? Can't even remember what it's called. But you do it. You put together a business model. You do that continuously. You're testing and learning continuously, and then at the end you do a pitch. Then you move on to the next stage, which is kind of like where you go for investment. Because what's really important as a small business and as you're just starting is to really get money so you can continue going, because you need to feed yourself. Otherwise, entrepreneurs like myself, we cannot continue. We can't continue to build these businesses. So there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this. Many of us haven't worked or been paid, for 2 years, 3 years. We're just working on ideas to try and solve this climate crisis to help benefit everyone in the world. So a lot of sacrifice goes into being an entrepreneur. And once you get investment, and I think pre-seed, which is the first amount of money that you get, is probably the most important, because that's what's then going to fuel you and get on getting the MVP, getting the products, so you can actually go out and sell it and actually make money from a customer. But until you get to that stage, you're in a really tricky situation. So Carbon 13, and there are others, by the way, there are many other different programs, helps you do that. And so it's finding a co-founder, building a business, and getting investment.
Perfect. That's a great explanation. Thank you so much. And how much you said there that you kind of went in with the germ of this idea already in your mind through your experience at Unilever, your experience of H2O squared, and wanting to do this and finding it frustrating as a brand yourself. Yeah. How much did that germ of an idea evolve and change during that kind of venture builder process?
Yeah, massively. So when you go into a venture builder, when you meet different co-founders, you really have to think about, okay, well, what are you trying to solve right now? Is it a matter of, is it consumer labeling? Because I was like, oh, maybe that's the focus. Or is it to do with scope 3 reporting? Is it to do with redesigning products? It really gets you to focus in what is the actual problem that you're trying to solve. And that's when we really test and learn things. So I went in thinking still it'd be a consultancy. I would, the company that I was going to build would be a consultant-led one, but it would be a lot cheaper, faster, focused on SMEs. What we've done is actually say, okay, no, this can be done with technology. So bringing on tech partners. So my two co-founders, we've got David, who I met in Carbon 13, Thejas, who's a CTO that we met outside of Carbon 13, have brought completely different perspectives on how we do things. So for example, read large and natural language models, reading, random information that's out on the web, putting it together in PDFs. That was something that I never even knew could be done. So 100% it's changed, but I would say it's changed more due to the people that I've met and my co-founders who were able to build these solutions that weren't even something that I even knew could be done in the past. It was like I used to dream of, like, oh, what if we could just look at know the packaging information from looking at an image on a website, and they're like, yeah, that can be done. We built it, and it's like, wow, okay. So it really is game changer and accelerates your business massively. But I would say I already knew that there was a pain point, a problem. I knew who the customer was because I'd already worked in Unilever and really understood the problem because I've worked in industry. I'm almost a customer for CarbonBright. So I'm very familiar with the needs and wants of what is required and what is needed right now.
Amazing. And then it was just meeting those co-founders that enabled you to solve that problem at a much bigger scale than perhaps you dreamed you even could.
Absolutely. So we do work with all companies, but really we know that large FMCG companies are the ones that need this right now. And so it really has changed, like, where do you focus on? Is it SMEs or is it large FMCGs? There's a lot of acronyms there. But FMCG is fast moving consumer goods, if you didn't know.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. And where are you at with it today? So when did you kind of spin out from Carbon 13, graduate? I'm not sure what the terminology is. And where are you at today in terms of the MVP and building that? Tell me about the current.
We have made amazing progress. So we are already working with customers. We've got lots of pilots ongoing as well. So we span out in January, brought on teams, finalized our pre-seed round, built that MVP, and started testing and learning with customers. And now we're basically at the stage of commercializing and building new parts of the product on as customers use it. That's where we are. So it's grown extremely quickly. There's still lots more to go. So it's a matter of, starting to bring on the key partners that we need to help scale at the pace that we need. But demand has been crazy. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, that's how you know you're onto something good, right? And like you said, the timing of it is perfect with regulation change, that you've struck a really you struck at exactly the right time. Amazing. And what are you excited about? What do this sort of next 6 months to a year bring for you?
I'm really excited just to continue building it. I think the aim and the vision would be, imagine if you could go onto Amazon and then filter for different products and look at the emissions per product, and you could go for the the least impact product. That would be the aim. We want to be the most trusted source of impact data in the world, which is built on industry global standards. So that is what we're aiming for. So we want to bring on and continue bringing on more and more customers, really building that out, testing and learning it, and then start, working with those big tech providers like Amazon, like Shopify, and really embedding that into the everyday search of products. So basically anything that you buy, we want CarbonBright to be behind your decision on why you might buy that. So that trusted data source.
Love that. That's a huge ambition, but an amazing one. I love
that.
You do, exactly. But it seems like that's not something that you're not used to, right? So if you kind of, as I mentioned there at the beginning of the episode, if you kind of look through your background, you did this 7 years with Uniliver of getting exposure to all these different parts of the business, but also alongside that, am I right, we're founding other businesses at the same time. So you happy to kind of take us back a little bit to the beginning and talk us through that journey and what you learned and what you've done and in your other businesses?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I was really lucky. Once I graduated, I got onto the Future Leaders program at Uniliver. And what that basically means, and I was in supply chain, you can apply and go into finance, marketing, and anyone who's starting out, just, graduating, highly recommend going and working for a large company and getting on a graduate program, because that's how you really learn about business. Like, you're in the middle of everything, you're working with big clients. So started there. And with that program, I got moved every 6 months to a new job, to a new location. So I got moved out to Poland, lived there for 6 months in a logistics hub. And my aim was to try and track every logistic movement of all of our trucks using a GPS tracking. So I had to build this app. Then I've got moved to Cardiff and worked in the pot noodle factory of all places. So I was working as a warehouse manager. They hadn't had a warehouse manager before. So at the age of 23, I was literally managing a team of 25 men, working across a 24/7 shift. So they were, even over the weekends, I had people that, worked for me, worked evenings on weekends only. So I would never actually see them unless I went in. And then I worked in innovation. So I was basically in charge of the supply chain activities in beauty and personal care. So what that meant was any innovation on Simple, Dove, Tony and Guy, Tresemme, I was the one in charge of the supply chain team to find the factory, transport it over, launch it in Tesco, where other supermarkets are available. So all of that amazing background and responsibility that I had at such a young age definitely gave me the confidence and understanding of then how to run businesses. And I probably should say as well, like my family are entrepreneurs. My dad's a very, very successful entrepreneur. So is my granddad. So I definitely have it in my blood, I would say. But then, that experience definitely then was like, okay, what can I do? So in 2020, of all times, I decided to take a career break to go traveling. As we know, COVID was happened. So that was a very short-lived career break. And so during that time, I was like, what do I do with myself? Because I've taken a career break from Unilever. I had a year off. I couldn't go back. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start my business, because I had this idea for a while, which was, why water bottles circular? Because they don't fit into any of my bags, my pockets. It's really frustrating. And I love to drink water, and I carry water with me all the time. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I have the supply chain experience. I know how to source a factory. I know how to transport things over. To be honest, that part's very easy for me. So I spent a lot of money on purchasing and designing water bottles, which is actually pretty insane thinking back about, I was really brave actually, but I was like, no, it's fine. I know it's going to work. And sometimes you just need to believe in yourself. So I remember starting the business. I started it just on Etsy. I was using my friends as models, taking photos with them. Then I started to build my own website. I taught myself how to code a website, build my own website. Then I got onto Not on the High Street. They didn't want me on that at first, but then kept knocking down on doors, got onto Not on the High Street, signed big partnerships with big businesses. And so it became a really, really successful business. It's now bought my house, which is pretty amazing.
Wow.
And then from that, I became really interested in the impact of that product. And actually, because people were asking me, so, what if you switch this material to metal? And then I started looking into metal production, and it was actually really carbon intensive. And that made me think, well, are metal water bottles even good? And so how do we know until we actually do a life cycle assessment? So it really got me interested in understanding that. But then from that experience, I was like, I don't know anything about marketing. I need to learn about digital marketing. So I went back to Unilever after my career break and went into marketing. So I was a Cif brand manager, which is a leading cleaning brand, if you don't know it. And then I moved into digital marketing. I was leading the digital marketing hub there in home care. So running, lots of massive campaigns on Persil, Comfort, Cif, Domestos, running those campaigns. I really got a really good understanding of how to do marketing after that. But sustainability has always been in everything that I do. And then I really wanted to move into sustainability. And so then I did move into sustainability and behavior science and building tech platforms that can really help consumers understand the impact of different products they buy. And at the same time of all of this, I was running my businesses. So I very luckily with Uniliver, I was able to work on this new future of work thing that they do called UWork. And what that means is I don't work full time. I have to work a minimum of 6 weeks a year for Unilever, but in the other time, I can work on my own businesses, and I still get paid like a salary, a very minimal salary. So it's basically a really, really, really great scheme that they did. They offer high performing people in the company that they want to have access to still. And I was just really lucky to get onto that. So I could still have that experience of a large corporate, but also I can do my own thing and start my own businesses. And that's exactly what I did.
That's incredible. So first of all, wow, because that is a lot to have achieved at a young age. And you must have been so incredibly busy. But also, wow, with the confidence and the bravery. I mean, even at that very beginning of your career, jumping every 6 months into a new country, a new division, a new team of people, that takes a lot of bravery to suddenly be in Poland or suddenly be running a warehouse of 25 blokes packaging pot noodles. That's a lot to do. I mean, how did you feel scared? Did you get the imposter syndrome? And especially as a woman on that journey, did you find that difficult?
Oh, yeah, massively. I think it was really scary. I'm not going to lie. Imagine moving to a new country, new flat, and new language. It was, and then suddenly having to be in charge of a whole team of people. It is intimidating, and I've always been someone that's very detailed, and I definitely do my research into things. I don't like to go into situations where I'm unprepared. And so I made sure that I did all the work I could do up front to look like I'm someone that is sensible in this position, but 100% had imposter syndrome, 100%. Why do they trust me with this? This is really scary. How can I do a better job than someone's been in this job for 30 years? But what I've realized very quickly is that what I don't have in experience, I have in energy and passion. And actually, that's you can't teach that, and that's really hard. So I think I found that very, very helpful in my journey. I did have one experience in the factory where I'm always someone that leads with my team. So I'm not standing at the top saying, you do this, you do that. I'm almost like, let's do this together. Let's work, and we're collaborating. So I remember one time working with the team, and at this, we were painting floors, because that's what you do in factories sometimes, So I was like, okay, I'll come and help you do that. That's something that management don't usually do. And I remember one of the factory workers saying, oh, there's a woman down on her knees where she should be. And honestly, that was the only time in my whole like career and working life so far where I've really been like, wow, I've never experienced anything like that before. But I just think that it was an off the cuff mark. It was not something that I ever complained about, but it has definitely stuck with me and made me think about different management styles in different locations, maybe. So like, how can you still be a collaborative leader, but maybe act in different ways? And maybe it was just, one person who felt a certain way, but and didn't really need to say that. But I would say, it's been it has been difficult, it has been challenging. However, I'm very grateful for all of those experiences. I wanted to leave. I didn't want to stay in the pot noodle factory. I really wanted to leave. I didn't have any friends when I moved there. I had to start a new life. I had to find a new gym. I had to find friends. How do you find friends in a new location? I wanted to leave so much, but my family were like, nope, you're sticking this out, continue going, you'll be fine. And I think having that support is second to none. Yeah.
And like you said, I think partly confidence comes from that, right? Knowing that you've got love and support drives you to feel brave to go and do those things. So I suppose there's that. And like you said, entrepreneurialism in your blood, and having seen other people in previous generations like dig deep and achieve and do things, I suppose drives you forward.
Oh, 100%. So one thing that my dad always said when we were younger, he'd point at a builder and say, if he can be a builder, you can be a builder. If that person can be a CEO, you can be a CEO. Like, why never? So I've always felt like I should never limit myself. Like, you can be whoever you want to be as long as you continue and you're persistent with it. And that has stuck with me forever.
And has paid off in droves by the sounds of it. And I love the fact that you've shown the example. So there's sort of one school of thought that the best place for you to learn is in a big corporate. And, you have the experience you had of going through all those different divisions and learning through that. And then other people will go, yeah. But actually the real way to learn is by doing it yourself. And I love that you've done both in tandem. That's great.
Yeah. Definitely. I think you have to do both. I agree. Like, if you go into a big company, sometimes you're very focused on just one thing. You're like a cog in a big machine. If you have your own business, you're doing everything. You definitely need to have both experiences. If you don't have that large corporate experience, I don't think you've got some of the skills with working with cross-functional teams across different nations, how to communicate virtually, to large. It's very different to running your own business. I think you have to have both.
Yeah, and especially in a situation that you're in now, right, where those large enterprise organizations are going to be your customer. The fact that you've been there, you've done that, you've lived it, you understand how they operate. I suppose if you'd never done that, it would be very difficult to sell to them, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. You can speak their language. You can send emails the way they would send them. You can you get to a level with them. And one thing I've learned, business is a people business. It's not about your product. I mean, it is partly, but they buy from a person. People invest in people. It's you are the business. So if I could teach anyone anything, it'd be like, how do you want to come across? Who are you? What are you building? Like, make sure that is extremely clear. You are a brand, and they are buying from you just as much as they are buying from a company. In fact, people make up their decision. I think it's like 97% of their decisions based on you as a person, and their belief in you.
Amazing. And that's where you said that energy and passion, that's something that you can't teach. And that's what helps people make that decision, right?
100%. Yeah.
So in terms of your kind of advice, I mean, obviously that was a great piece of advice in and of itself there, but in terms of the tools and resources that you've used along the way, I always round out these episodes by giving these kind of 3 quick fire recommendations of things that you've used and would recommend, resources you've used and would recommend to others to help them. So First one being, what kind of people-based resource? So that could be a network, a community, an organisation, do you feel has helped you along the way and you would recommend to others?
I'm Carbon 13, so I would join an accelerator where you can meet like-minded sustainability founders. There's other available, there's Techstars, there's Y Combinator, but I would join an accelerator, and those people really, we're still on WhatsApp, we still talk, we're meeting up in a few weeks. I met you through Carbon 13. So yeah, I would say that is a really great resource.
Yeah, amazing. And what about a media-based resource that you would recommend? So a book, a podcast, TED Talk, whatever it might be, media-based.
I really enjoyed the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's nothing to do with sustainability, but it's all to do with business and how you might think about a situation. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you read it.
I haven't read it. Can you nutshell it for me?
So it's a guy, he had a rich dad and a poor dad. One worked all his life, he had a job and he died broke. And then the other dad, he didn't work for someone. He started his own businesses. He went into property and he died very rich. And basically it's about this idea that we're all in a society and just doing what we're meant to do, which is having a job. And he says that a job just means that you're just over broke. So it gives you the empowerment to go out and actually focus on all these other ideas that you can do other than just working for a company. Can you actually start your own business, whether that's on the side, like as a side hustle, whether it's a full-time thing? So it really gave me the like, oh, anyone can do this kind of vibe.
Oh, that sounds great. I'll order it. And what about a business role model that you would suggest people follow? Could be someone in climate, could not be, but who do you look up to?
Okay, well, I can only, out the top of my head, I can only think of something that I listened to Brian Johnson recently, who, if you don't know who he is, he's I would say very misunderstood. He's someone that has started something called the Blueprint, which is he's got a singular vision in his life and he just wants to not die. And to everyone,
the really young man, the old young man.
He's old, but he like drinks his son's blood. He doesn't actually drink his son's blood, but people, they're saying a lot of stories. The reason why I look up to him is because he's so focused on one thing and he does everything in his power to just achieve that one thing, which is do not die. And he talks about how his mind controls him in ways that's probably not best for his body. And the way he is so completely determined just to not die, and he does everything to go against the norms of human life, intrigues me. So not the blueprint as such, but just the way he doesn't care about what anyone else thinks. He's on his own journey. That's what I love, because people that go against what anyone else thinks, if you care about what other people think, you're never going to achieve what you need to achieve. And I love how focused he is. And I think if you can take one thing away from today and this podcast is focus on your own journey. Do not worry about what other people think.
I love that. That's a great place to end. Thank you so much, Francesca. It's been an absolute joy, as always, speaking to you. Yeah. I always love seeing you around and chatting.
Thanks so much for having me, Sherry.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. We have got, I think, 4 more episodes coming to you over the next few weeks. So please keep an eye on LinkedIn to see when the next ones are coming, and do come and join us again. But for now, have a great rest of the day, everybody. Bye.